All right, guys, it is Friday, February 19th, 2021. Today marks 68 days I have left to get my 55 two-door hardtop ready for Daryl Starbird's car show in Tulsa, which is April 30th through May 2nd. So, I've actually got my cutoff date is the 27th. I have to have the car there on the 28th, so that's how I got my 68 days, in case you're wondering. I don't have a lot more to show visually from the last video, and it's been pretty much 2 weeks. Because of other factors. So I'll turn it around here so you can see. It doesn't look any different than what it did last time you saw it, if you've been following this build on this car. I did get the windshield in. I did a video on this, how I installed it, but the video turned out it was choppy, and my voice didn't match my mouth. It was like watching an old Bruce Lee movie, so I deleted it. Something was messed up with the files. I have a computer that I use when I do my video downloads and stuff, and it's on Wi-Fi, and sometimes our Wi-Fi goes on the fritz, so I think that's probably what happened on that deal. But anyway, I got my sun visors in the car. I've got the rear view mirror on the car, new swivels, new rear view mirror. It looks really, really nice in here. If I can just get my trim all put in here. I still have to polish all that stuff as well. I got my Autotronic eye on the dash. It is mounted. I still have to finish wiring it up. I just set my instrument cluster in there to get it out of the way. I have to pull it back out. And I just set the gauge pod on there just to show for the video. But I think it looks pretty cool. I love it. And that's why I did all my gauge needles in orange, is because these Autometer gauges are orange needles. But try to make them match. That's why I did the clock needles orange as well, in case you've been wondering. Originally, they were like a pale green, white color. But anyway, I got some of this stainless put in, and the quarter window track is relined and felt and done. And then I've got this one done as well. If you've never done these on a two-door hardtop, it's a little bit labor intensive. It's kind of a mess. It's not too bad, but anyway, these are the rear window quarter tracks that screw to the roof. So what I ended up doing was sanding and polishing the stainless, and then I taped it off, and then my tracks here were surface rusted. So I ended up going in and using wire wheels and a little handheld wire brush and sandpaper, and I went and cleaned them up real good, and then I used POR 15 on a brush and coated them black. I let them dry overnight, and then I had bought a new felt relining kit to reline them in felt, because they're supposed to be felt lined so it doesn't scuff up your chrome on your quarter window and doesn't rattle around and stuff. And anyway, the kit, when you pull it all out, it's like a 5 or 6 inch wide piece that's like 4 feet long. You're supposed to cut it in half, use half of it in here and half of it in the other. Well, it's got a very stiff backing on it. So when you're trying to make it contour a curve, all it wants to do is fold up on the sides. So I'm not going to go in there and cut 3 strips to put in a bottom and then one side and then another side. I wanted to do it all in one piece. So what I did, this is what I had to do. I did pie cuts about every inch to 2 inches all the way down both sides in that felt. And then I glued it in there, and that let it fit in there real nice. That's why there's tape on the quarter window. I shoved it up in there after I stuck that felt in there on the glue. I put that quarter glass up in there just to hold tension on it so the glue would dry where it needed to be. But it's amazing how much time will go by when you're doing this little tedious stuff like this. Your day will be gone, and all you'll have is these 2 little things done to show for it. It was actually 1.5 days doing these, because I had to sand and polish the stainless. But then you got these little pieces here. These go in the back here. And this is a piece that is put in by these fold-over tabs. You have to pull that out and then clean off your old felt. In my case, they were still there, but they were faded out brown from sun damage. So I ended up cleaning all that off and then re-glued on new felt strips. I can tell you this is just the fuzzy side of Velcro. That's all this is. And it is half the thickness of the original. So I don't think that's very good, but it is what it is. It's what I got. Anyway, this piece I sanded and polished the stainless and then taped it off, and then I sanded the metal down and painted this just flat silver spray paint, and then I put the piece back in. But I had to make a new piece for this side because it was missing. There's supposed to be one of these in there. This one was missing. I still had it in this one, so that's the one I used for the template for this one, because it's the same for either side, but depending on what side you glue the felt to. But anyway, I had to clean this up and paint these as well. These were rusty, but It's just that little stuff right there. Just it, takes a lot of time to do, and it just kind of sucks. But I ended up getting it done. So I've had a big mess polishing this stainless steel trim, and I've been having trouble, and I think I've figured out what the problem is. So I do want to say I have done a lot of stainless steel repair through the years on my cars. I've always polished the stainless on all my Tri-5 Chevys I've redone. And I am not saying I'm a professional at this. I do not have professional equipment by any means. I am in a two-car garage and I just use what I have. But I can tell you one thing. There is something you need to avoid if you've never done this before. If, say, you drug in a 50s car and it's got lots of stainless trim on it, this will save you some time. When you pull a piece of stainless trim off of your car, put some blue painter's tape on it, and then lay it down. And then take another piece off, put blue painter's tape on it, and set it down. You do not want to throw this shit in a pile on top of itself, because there's all these sharp edges, like here, and the backside there, and up here, and right there. And when these are thrown on top of each other raw, that's what you get. All these scuffs and scratches. Stainless steel is a hard metal. It scratches real easy, but it's hard as hell to sand out. So you spend hours getting them sand scratches out of there, or them scratches out of there with sandpaper. So show you this. See all them scratches in that? Look at all the different directions they go. A lot of these you can feel with your fingernail. This was a very, very rough piece right here. What has happened is this stuff was taken off the car, and then it was thrown either inside the car or thrown somewhere in a shop in a pile. And then probably, moved around on top of itself. So it's just sitting there scratching itself. So that's not good. It's going to cause you more work. Now, what the problem is, this is the worst set I've ever had to redo. And it's because of what's been happening to this car. The backstory on this car is, this is what I was told when I bought it. Now, this car, when I started getting all the parts out of it, there was a bunch of baby food jars in a box with all the screws, nuts, and bolts in it. The jar date was 1987. So I'm assuming this car was taken apart in 1980s, 85, 86, 87, somewhere in there. Don't know for sure. Anyway, so this car's been apart for decades. So this trim has been thrown around on top of itself, in with other crap, and it's gotten scratched up. But the worst part is, this car has been in California most of its life. It wound up on eBay. It went to Ohio, and then it went, after a year or two, to Wisconsin. It got back on eBay, went to Wisconsin, and then I ended up with it. So this car's been on a hell of a trek across the U.S. before it came to me. Now, when the car came to me on a trailer, all this little trim pieces, all the trim for the car was thrown in the trunk all together with all the other parts of the car as well. So this stuff was just laying on top of other stuff. So it just sat there on a rough-ass ride. You can imagine hitting a pothole with a car trailer, running off the side edge of the road, or, going over a bridge at high speed. You're going to get that constant vibration and those hits on that trailer that's going to cause this stuff to scratch itself to pieces. So that is exactly what I've gotten into. Now, I have never, ever seen trim this scratched up before. Some of the other pieces that I've already done were really, really bad. I started with the worst ones first just to get them done. But there was a couple of the pieces that were really, really bad. And I ended up, one of them I changed. I had an extra set in my shed and I changed it out. It was too bad to mess with. But anyway, I know guys that use DAs to sand this stuff. I have never mastered the DA with stainless steel. I always end up with them little hook marks in there from the DA, and I always end up having to hand sand them out, so I just never use a DA. I hand sand everything. And I can tell you this, if you skip papers, like if you go from 400 to 1,000, you will never get them 400 scratches out of that, sand scratches out of that with that 1,000. You need to go through all the grades like 400, 500, 600, 800, 1,000, 1,200, 1,500, 2,000, 2,500. It is a freaking mess. But I'm averaging about 2 to 5 hours per piece, because some of them are worse than the others and some of them are bigger than others. So it's just a freaking nightmare. But that's why I've just took a few days off. I am done. I'm over this crap, man. And then another issue I ran into is I don't have the proper equipment to be polishing stainless steel. All I have is bench grinders. So ideally, for polishing stainless, you're supposed to have low RPM, high torque. That way, the torque, when you put the part up there to polish it, it doesn't stop. I don't have that. I just got crap. Now I've had this one for 20 years, and this has always been mounted on this side of the table. And I recently picked this used one up, and I liked it because it had this long throw on it. And it is too high RPM. It doesn't say anywhere on it what the RPM is, so it's kind of a shot in the dark. But anyway, this is too high RPM, and when you have too high RPM, it glazes over the pad, and then it just starts scuffing your stainless. So you're never going to get a mirror polish because you're turning too fast RPM, and it glazes that. It just cooks that rouge to that pad, basically, and makes it like a hard coating on there. You can clean this off, reload it with rouge, start polishing, and it'll immediately be glazed again because the RPM's too fast. So I have got to change this out. I have just figured out that this is my issue because I've been having hell trying to polish this trim. I've been having to finish it out by hand with Mother's Mag and aluminum polish on a cleaning microfiber on the rough side, doing it all one way after my final because I just can't get that mirror brightness. So this is one I've used for 20 years and I've never had this issue, so I've kind of figured out that I think it's just because of that, because if you turn this one on and this one on at the same time, this one is turning faster than this one. So I need to go back to my old one. I'm just going to throw this one back under the bench, I guess. But anyway, guys, that's where I'm at. That's the issue I've been having. It's just stainless steel repair, and I'm sick of it, man. I'm freaking tired of it. I'm burnt out. I'm gonna make that show. I'm pretty sure I can make the show, but I got to have warm weather just to paint parts. And I've still got like 6 inches of snow out here, so, and there's lots of ice on the driveway and stuff, so I don't know how long it's going to be before I can pull the car out and then paint parts. But anyway, if you enjoyed this really crappy amateur garage build video, go ahead and subscribe. I could sure appreciate the subscriptions.